Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I am KiwiSimsKate. Kiwi because I'm from New Zealand, Sims because I love The Sims, and Kate because my name is Kate. It's as simple as that. Thank you so much for joining me today in this video, and a special warm welcome to anyone new to my channel. I bring out speed builds for Sims 4 every 2 weeks here on YouTube. But I also stream live twice a week. So if you haven't already, would love for you to come and hang out with us New Zealand Standard Times on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and Saturdays at midday. But if you head along to my Twitch channel, which is twitch.com/KiwiSimsKate, you can check out my schedule there, and it will show you what times I stream in your local area, so if you're from a different part of the world. So today with my new speed build, this is a kind of a shorter little one. It's under 20 minutes for the build, and it's a very small apartment. It's a tiny home, so it fits in as a tiny house with those restrictions. I think it's 64 tiles maximum, and I'm fairly certain that it did actually come in at exactly 64 tiles. So I wanted to really make the most of the space I was allowed, and this is the first tiny house that I've tried, and I was surprised at how much I could fit in it. I feel like I could easily make even more use of space in a next tiny build. So definitely keep an eye out, because I think that tiny homes are something that I really enjoy the challenge of, and I will probably be trying out a few more in the future, and a few different styles maybe. I'd like to do, this is the one I'm building today is fairly modern, I suppose. So I'd like to try some in some different architectural styles. So today this build is just a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. It's got a pretty open plan living kitchen area with a tiny dining table. And I imagine the sim that lives here is a single sim who probably doesn't spend a ton of time at home, and is probably out a lot of the time, and therefore I didn't pack the house with a lot of things. There are some activity and skill building items, so there's an easel so your sim can paint. There are also in the backyard a couple of little plant pots, so your sim can do a little bit of gardening if they wish. And I didn't landscape the build too much either, because I didn't imagine the sim, even though I gave them a couple of plant pots, I didn't really imagine the sim as being a huge gardener. But there's still plenty of space on the lot once you place this house down. I mean, if you wanted to completely get rid of, if you liked the house but not the landscaping, you completely get rid of all the landscaping on this, and you could probably fit quite a bit of stuff in the yard around it, because the house itself doesn't really take up a lot of space on this lot. Where I've built this house is in Willow Creek. I still, even though it's the base game world and it's been around since the beginning of Sims 4, I love building in Willow Creek. It's just, the neighborhoods are so gorgeous. The lighting is really lovely on quite a few of the lots. One of my recent speed builds as well, I built just across the road from this on that big corner lot. The sizes of the lots are quite varied, and the number of lots available is great. I know that a lot of people aren't happy with the size of the worlds for some of our newer worlds. In particular, I was quite disappointed with Del Sol Valley, that came with the Get Famous pack. I was really excited about that pack, and I do love it. I think the build buy items are gorgeous, although incredibly expensive. And yeah, I like a lot of things about that pack, but I do wish we had more lots to build on in the world of Del Sol Valley. I do, however, really love the way they've come up with the world, and it just looks very lived in, like the non-playing lots in that world. They're pretty incredible. They look real. They look like sort of suburban LA kind of thing. What I imagine, what I've seen in pictures and things. But I just wish there were more available plots to build on. Anyway, getting back to this build, I start with the bathroom. I thought it was going to be super small, but actually as I started placing items, I realized I had quite a bit of space. And this house was not as much of a challenge as I thought it was going to be. I think I didn't really have a super clear idea of who my sim was for this house. So I tried to keep it fairly generic. I placed, as I said, a few different skill building items which you can switch out. But I didn't go for like a very heavy theme like I do tend to with a lot of my builds. I just like building when I've got a very particular sim or number of sims, family, or whatever it's for in mind. So this was easy to build, but kind of difficult to furnish. I went with more just like color themes. So in the bathroom, you'll notice I use a lot of blue and white, and I just kind of stick to those. And the wood tones I use are quite warm wood tones. And then in the kitchen and living room, I again use white with sort of just accents of color. So there's a little bit of kind of yellowy gold in the kitchen. And then again, I think I use some of those warm wood and blue swatches from the tiny living items in the living room. So I found there was plenty of space for counters in the kitchen, and then I use one of the very dangerous Murphy beds. In fact, I placed 2 Murphy beds in this build. Might be overkill. I don't know. You can always take one out, take the living room one out and just have a sofa there. I've not actually played the game with a Murphy bed yet, so I know that they're really high risk of killing your sim, so hopefully you don't have any trouble with it. But I don't know, I know that yeah, they're dangerous items in the Sims, so beware, buyer beware. But I love that they free up loads of space for your sim, and if I wanted, I could have easily made this home into the, what's the really tiny one? There's the tiny home is the middle of the 3. I can't remember the name of them now. Micro, right? I think it's micro home is the smallest. And this is obviously much too big for a micro home, but I feel like you could make it. You could just get rid of the whole room that I built for the bedroom and have them sleep in the Murphy bed that I placed in the living room. And if you wanted a desk with a computer, you could just put that where the dining table is, and they could eat at the desk, and you could have a laptop in your Sims inventory, and there'd still be, I think, plenty of space for a single sim. You could have 2 Sims living here if you kept it the way it was. I think if you did decide to turn it into a micro home, it'd be a tight squeeze for 2 Sims living here. I feel like they would just get in each other's way a lot. I don't know. If you do decide to download this build, and you will be able to download it off the gallery, my gallery ID is KiwiSimsKate. Please do let me know. I love to know when people use my builds in their gameplay. I don't do a ton of gameplay. I'm mostly a builder. And yeah, I find it really interesting to hear about the Sims that you place in my builds and how you use the build, whether or not you leave it the same or change it up. and what kind of things you like to add if you do change the build. I find all of that stuff quite interesting. So yeah, do get in touch, either comment below the video or pop along to one of my Twitch streams, and yeah, and let me know. I add a bit of clutter to this build, but not too much. I didn't want it to feel overloaded with things. I think that it would have started to look a little bit ridiculous if I placed too many things in this home. So I tried to keep it somewhat clean and tidy. I think originally I wanted to do like wraparound, what are the like kitchen cabinets along the wall, and I don't think I don't wrap them around the whole kitchen anyway in the end. I can't remember. I think I placed them just above where the stove is. Yeah, I just placed some white cabinets up there just to give it a bit more interest. I felt like it was a little bland without it. And of course the obligatory knife block has to go in the kitchen. The knife block is incredibly expensive for an item, and that some of the items in The Sims, if you're building without cheats, or with a Sims inventory and amount of money, I think you'll find it quite crazy, some of the pricing on the objects, if you haven't noticed already. I mean, I don't build a lot in game. I tend to build and then I don't play the game with the builds. I just build loads of things. So for me, the cost doesn't really play a factor, unless I'm trying to build something that's within a specific budget. But I was building one day, and I think I might have been playing the Dream Home Decorator career, and I had a budget to work with, obviously, like you do, for the client, and I wanted to place a knife block, and I realized there are over 200 simoleons in the game. And when you compare that to something like some of the counters in the game, one of the counters they're cheaper than that. They're like 125, I think, simoleons, whereas the knife block's 200 and something, which is just, it's madness. I don't know why they've done that. Yeah, really, some of the objects that are so expensive, I don't understand. Anyway, I'm finishing the bedroom last in the house, so I've pretty much finished the kitchen, dining and bathroom, and then the bedroom is all I really wanted to keep it blue and white, so a lot of the house is actually predominantly blues and whites, and I'm quite happy with how the bedroom turned out. I did this trick. I love sizing up and down objects. I think it's one of the easiest kind of tricks if you're just starting out building in The Sims. Something to make your builds just a little more interesting is to play with the sizing of objects. And unless you've got the tool mod, which is a really handy tool, I don't use it myself, but I know it's super handy for sizing things exactly the size you want them. But if you don't have that or don't want to use it, just using the open and close bracket keys for sizing objects up and down can create some interesting things. And it's particularly great for rugs, because some rugs are gorgeous in the game, but they're just not the right size you want them for. Anyway, I tried sizing up an object that I've never sized up before, and I placed it in one of those bookshelves just beside the Murphy bed in the bedroom. And it's the little basket with toiletries in it, which I think is a base game item. Oh yeah, of course. So another thing is that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, this build is base game and tiny living only. So I only use those 2 packs. You don't need any other packs to download this build. So everything will appear as long as you have Sims 4 and tiny living. I should have mentioned that right at the start. Silly Kate. Anyway, yeah, so the Murphy bed in the bedroom, I use the version with the shelving on both sides of the bed, and I wanted to look for things to fill to fill the shelves that are empty, and I placed that basket with the toiletries in one of the shelves, and it just looked a bit silly, on its own at the size that it comes as. And then I was thinking, why don't I just try and size it up and see? And it looked really good. I think it would look silly if it was on a more viewable shelf, like a obvious shelf. But because it's sort of tucked away in a corner and it's on a shelf near the floor, you don't really notice it that much. But it filled the space really well, and I had never tried sizing up that item. So I love it when you kind of discover new little quirks about the game that you never thought of doing. And lastly, I move on to the landscaping, and the landscaping, normally I find landscaping quite easy, but again, because I'm just using base game and tiny living, it does restrict you, obviously, and a lot of the plants that I use are from all sorts of different packs, and I couldn't use all of my usual suspects. But I love the sort of like pine tree things. I use them a lot. I use the hedging a lot. And just that plain sort of flower ground cover. I use that a lot anyway. But the Sim, as I sort of explained, they're not a huge gardener anyway, so I didn't feel like I needed to give them a huge landscaped property. They've just got a bit of greenery in their backyard, and somewhere to sit if they want to eat outside. I think with a tiny home, one of the tricks to making it feel a lot larger and like you've got a lot more space is to really make use of that outdoor space. Obviously, if you're going to be adding in porches or any sort of outdoor platform, that will count towards your tile use. So that's why I've only given them a very small porch in the front, and then just a 2-tile step from the back door. But you could lower the whole home to the ground level, not need any of those porches, and make the house a little bit bigger, and then just have more of an outdoor living space. You could even cover it with some kind of awning, and there you go. You've got way more space than just your interior of your build. So I add a little seating area outside in case they feel the need to get a little bit of sunshine as they're eating. And the last few details I put in is just a bit of clutter, and I nearly forget a rubbish bin. Silly me. So I place a rubbish bin inside and a larger rubbish bin outside. Screenshots will be here shortly. If you'd like to download this build, my gallery ID is KiwiSimsKate, and you can find this build and all my other builds there. If you do enjoy this build, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and you can enjoy all my future videos here on YouTube. You can also follow me on my other socials, Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, all of those at KiwiSimsKate. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and take care out there. Bye!